Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, 1, 2. Okay, so before we start, if I sound a little stuffy, it's spring and I live in Illinois, so we get all 4 seasons in one day sometimes. Goes up, goes down. So yeah, my body just can't keep up. So if I sound a little weird, my apologies. So, I'm going to tell you 3 stories. Now, I got a lot of things that happened in my life that I could do story times about, but it's only like one thing. Like one time I got mad at a teacher and I flipped her off, but that's not really a story, that's just like a thing that happened. So like I have a lot of funny stuff, but a lot of it's really short, so I went really deep into my psyche and I pulled out 3 stories that I can actually talk about for a bit. And hope these are for comedy purposes. Hopefully, you find them entertaining. And here we go. Okay, story number 1. So I was about 7. I was about 7 years old. My great grandpa was still alive. May he rest in peace. So it was me, my grandpa, my great grandpa. We were home by ourselves. My mom, my dad, they were at work, and grandma was at the store. And they wouldn't be back for another couple hours. So Grandpa had to watch both me and great grandpa. Now it was a nice summer day. We were all sitting on the deck. We had a little patio. And we're just drinking our drinks. We're having a good time. And I forget what I did, but I had to go inside for something. So I go in the house, I was getting a toy or something, or a drink, I don't know. And then I come back outside and I shut the door behind me. Because, that's what I was told you. You gotta shut the door behind you. So I do that, and I sit back down, and we're just relaxing in the sun. Then Grandpa goes back in to get a drink, and the door's locked. He goes around back, tries the back door, that's locked as well. Tries the window, it's locked. And the second story windows are obviously second story, so you can't reach those, and there's no ladder in the yard. So we're stuck outside in the 80-degree weather. Now, the funny thing is, this is not the first time that this has happened. I've done this before, but mostly to myself. This is the first time it's affected somebody else. And then Grandpa, he didn't get mad. He was just like, well, you locked us out, Matt. Way to go. So now we're just sitting in the heat. We waited for like 1 hour. Maybe it was more than an hour, but I don't know. And great grandpa has to go to the bathroom. He's like, I gotta go real bad. And then grandpa's like, well, Matt locked us out, so we can't. It's like, well, what did he do that for? So we're waiting and we're waiting. It's hot. Now I don't mind the hot weather, but they're dying. And then finally, great grandma's like, I gotta go real bad. So we had this big bush in their yard, so he had to go in the bush. And then finally, grandma gets home, or somebody gets home that had a key, and they let us in. And they yelled at grandpa because, as I said, it was not the first time that it's happened. It's like the second or third time, actually. And I guess they told him not to let me lock them out of the house, and he let me lock them out of the house. So he got yelled at. I kind of felt bad for him. So yeah, there's story number 1. Here's story number 2. So this one, last time I was 7 years old, and this story, I was in 7th grade, so it's probably 13 or 14. So it's like 7 years later. 777. Going to heaven. Anyway. So I don't know if anybody else's middle school had this, but in my middle school we had something called enrichment. And it wasn't for a grade, but every 4.5 weeks it would like switch. So sometimes it was a study hall, sometimes it was like a reading class, sometimes it was fun. Like one time we had like a detective themed one where we would play Spot the Difference, we'd play like Clue. That was really cool. But most of the time it was just like a study hall. And then one time it was a study hall, but it was in the gym. So you could like work on your work, do your homework, and then if you were all done, you could excuse me, if you were all done, you could just play in the gym, play basketball, whatever they had, whatever equipment they had out, you could play with it. Now, I was working on some English homework. I was writing in my notebook, and I was sitting in the group of girls. There was one other dude, there was a bunch of girls, but I was just doing my work, and I really had to fart. Now, the funny thing is, we're in a huge gymnasium, so I could have just walked over somewhere far away and let it rip. I don't know if I was lazy or if I just didn't feel, I don't know what was going through my mind, but I decided, you know what, I'm just going to let it rip right here, right now. So I call it a one cheek sneak where you kind of like do that and then you let it rip. Now, I was so concerned about the noise that I forgot the fundamentals of farts and that sometimes they smell. Now, contrary to the belief, loud farts can smell. It's not just the quiet ones. Now, thankfully, this wasn't very loud. It's kind of sounded like a soft, like, it was like air out of a tire. So I'm like, all right, I'm in the clear. Now, farts are gases, so they go up and then out. So I smell my farts before anybody else does, because it goes like this and then it spreads. So I get a whiff and it's bad. We had nachos for lunch because his lunch was before this, and I knew I was in trouble. And if I start walking away, it's gonna be really obvious. So I just stay put. I'm like, maybe they won't smell it. Maybe it'll just go away. 15 seconds later, one of the girls is talking to another girl, and she picks her head up like a deer. She's like, she takes a sniff, and in like a high pitch, squeaky middle school girl voice, she goes, "Oh my god!" And I kid you not, they all run away and they scream like they're being chased by Michael Myers. They scream and they run towards the teacher, and the other dude, he just looks at me. He's like, doesn't say anything, just shakes his head. So they all crowd around this teacher and they're talking to her, and she's got a microphone that connects to like the speaker system in the gym, and she goes, "Somebody farted," and the look on her face was like, I don't get paid enough for this stuff. And she could really care less. She was like, just hold your breath, go back. Now, thankfully, that guy didn't snitch on me because bro code. If somehow one of you girls are watching this, I'm sorry. Okay, so final story. I don't know what year this was, but it was somewhere between the two. Somewhere. So we were on a party boat or a pontoon, whatever you want to call it. So it's like a slow boat. There's a big platform. It's got a grill. It's got some benches and a table. And it's got a little toilet in there. And then you go up the spiral staircase, and there's another little smaller floor above it. So it's like a tall boat. So we're cruising. We're having a good time. And they had a slide, too. They had a slide that would go from the second into the water, and somebody broke it. Somebody went down, and the whole thing just broke. Well, anyway, then a storm rolls in. It was like a night. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and then boom, storm. Well, it wasn't that quick, but the clouds rolled in, it rained, and then boom, we got a big storm. And the chips go in the water, the bread goes in the water, all the food just blows away. And my grandma, my aunt, my mom, my cousin, and some other woman was in the water. They're trying to swim, but the waves keep pushing them away from the boat. They're like, "Don't you leave us!" And I think this is hilarious. I'm just laughing my butt off. I don't know why. It was kind of scary looking back at it, but I just thought like, oh man, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So we were considering just letting them get washed up to shore, and then we go to the beach and get them. So my grandparents also had a speedboat, and one by one they had to go out and get them. And then we're all just hanging on to, like, there's railings on the boat. We're all just hanging on. Still, I think it's funny because, like, the way the wind blew, it made, like, a bread tornado. Like, there was a loaf of bread. It, like, went in the air, spun around, and went in the water. So I'm just laughing my butt off. And that's pretty much it. That was kind of a short story, but that's what happened. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope that was somewhat entertaining. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.